Right. Hello, everybody. So you've already had like 3 videos on Berkeley already. And so I'm thinking like you guys get the general sort of moves that Berkeley is making, but I just want to kind of very quickly recap and then draw out a further conclusion to connect Berkeley to Descartes. So Berkeley thinks that to be is to be perceived, right? Such that if an object, say this coaster, were to not be perceived, it would immediately cease to exist. And some philosophers think this. They think that when we go out of a room and nobody's looking at it in the room, when nobody's like looking around in the room just disappears. And the room reappears when another person comes in and sees the room, right? And honestly, how do we know that that doesn't happen? Because we can't observe it. And if we're like an empiricist, we might think like, well, if we can't observe it, then how do we know? How do we not know that that's not possible, right? So, um, so Berkeley buys into this picture about uh, being is being perceived. Now, his answer to that, the reason why nothing disappears is, according to Berkeley, God observes all things. So God is the one who sees everything, even when no humans or animals are around, right? So even when I walk out of this room and nobody's around to look at it, God's looking at it. And he can look at everything all at once because he's God. He can do that. So, okay, so Berkeley also thinks that like there are no actual real bodies, right? So he thinks that all bodies are um, a mere illusion, right? So here's what Berkeley thinks: you are a disembodied soul. I am also a disembodied soul, right? And what happens is that God is dumping perceptions into or onto our immaterial soul, right? Such that our soul thinks that it's perceiving bodies, right? So I look at my hands, look, I have hands. No, this is just God, right? Showing my soul a picture of my hands. I really don't have hands. I'm actually a disembodied soul, and so are you, right? But everything that's around you is just God sort of dumping all of that stuff into your soul. Um, okay, like how could we buy such a crazy view? Well, one of the advantages of this view is that it solves the mind body problem, right? So recall that we were wondering how an immaterial mind could influence or could cause a material body to move, right? Well, if we go with what Berkeley's saying, well, then we don't have to worry about the problem because there are no material bodies. Rather, they're just immaterial bodies, right? Just souls and God. And God is just dumping perceptions as of material things onto an immaterial soul. So this is what we call subjective idealism, right? It's the opposite of materialism, which says that only material objects exist. Idealism says that only immaterial objects exist. Okay, so we have this picture, right? And 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 I think there's an interesting connection between Berkeley's picture of God as the source of all perceptions and Descartes' evil demon. So recall that Descartes is trying to um, create a solid foundation for the sciences. But Descartes also says that, look, it's possible that we could be radically deceived, right? I might just be a brain in a vat. I might be deceived by an evil demon, right? How do I know that my perceptions, right, when I look at this coaster, right, how do I know that there's actually a coaster there? Because I can touch it, I can taste it, I can feel it, I can see it, right? All of these things, but I can't be certain that I'm not being deceived by an evil demon, such that I don't really have a body, but the evil demon is like dumping perceptions onto me and tricking me into thinking that I have a body. Okay, so Berkeley kind of takes this picture, right? Descartes' case about an evil demon or maybe an evil scientist that's like probing your brain to give you perceptions, right? Um, Berkeley is running with this idea, and Berkeley says, no, no, look, Descartes, you're right, but it's not an evil demon that's tricking you. Rather, God is the deceiver. That is, God is Descartes' evil demon. Not to say that God is a demon, but God plays the same role that Descartes' evil demon does. Namely, that God is sort of dumping perceptual experiences into your soul at all points in time, right? So there's a connection between Descartes' evil demon and Berkeley's God, right? And there's and we also talked about how God is the source of all perceptual experiences.